Ambassador Shapiro leads the Western Hemisphere Trade Task Force and has served as the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs and as U.S. Ambassador to Venezuela. He joined the Department of State in 1977. His foreign postings include Venezuela, Chile, Trinidad and Tobago, El Salvador, and Denmark, and he has held a variety of Washington assignments. In 2007, the government of Chile decorated Ambassador Shapiro with the Orden al Mérito. He is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, Georgia State University, and the department's State Senior Seminar. So we go straight in line to Ambassador Shapiro. Ambassador, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Adriana. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And welcome to the Business Forum. You are live on Power 102 FM in Port of Spain, Trinidad, and thanks for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here with you and with all your listeners.
Thank you. Ambassador, I'd like us to begin our interview by discussing the Roadmap to Recovery Plan, which was presented to President Barack Obama recently. But more specifically, how soon do you foresee significant economic recovery in the U.S.? And in the meantime, is there a plan of U.S. cooperation with the rest of the hemisphere to mitigate the effects of the current crisis?
Well, those are two terrific questions, Adriana. I don't know that anybody can predict with accuracy when the United States economy is going to start to pick up. What we do know is that the decline has slowed. There are some sectors that appear to be doing better, but that's all very, very anecdotal and spotty information, and if you knew when it was going to become a trend, you'd be able to make a killing on the stock market, and I'm not going to be able to predict that for you. The second question is, what can the United States do? And as you know, we've been participating in the G20 summits. The next one is going to come up in Pittsburgh in September 24th, if I'm not mistaken. And importantly, in Port of Spain at the summit, President Obama meeting with his colleagues discussed that, and what they told him is the most important thing the United States can do is to get our own economy moving, because our economy is tied so closely to the economies, particularly in Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, and the northern part of South America.
Of course. Ambassador, also the successful implementation of the plan is also extremely important towards the economic survival of the CARICOM region in particular. What are some of the short-term benefits identified in this regard?
What, for CARICOM?
Specifically.
Obviously, as you know, demand is off for products in the United States, of products produced in the Caribbean and elsewhere. And importantly for your CARICOM colleagues is that tourism is off, not just from the United States, but also from Europe as well.
Of course.
And so as our economy picks up, hopefully we'll be able to get more tourists traveling abroad, spending more money, and our demand for your products will increase as well. And so that will have an immediate impact in the Caribbean economies, including that of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, Ambassador, in terms of the Roadmap to Recovery document, what are some of the key areas that the Obama administration is looking to facilitate in the short term?
Well, look, what we've done is we've gotten our banks solid and moving forward again, and that's important.
Exactly.
We've stopped a number of financial institutions from collapsing. We've lent major amounts of money to those United States, and I think it's interesting that last week 11 major financial institutions have started repaying that, $38 billion, if I'm not mistaken, back to the United States government. So that's key. But as you know, what's important in the United States and what keeps our economy going, is just like yours, is consumer demand.
Of course.
And so long as people are nervous about the future, they are saving their money, which on the one hand is good, but on the other hand has a real impact because that money's not circulating. If I've got my money in the bank instead of I'm going out to spend my money, whether it's at a restaurant or to buy an appliance for my home or to take a holiday somewhere.
Of course. Ambassador, please stay on the line while we take a short break. When we return, we'll discuss some of the key strategic imperatives being facilitated by the U.S.
Looking for the perfect place for recreation and investment opportunities? Then come to Shagaramas. We offer a diverse range of activities, including restaurant and hotel development, sailing, hiking, eco tours, golfing, kayaking, and lots more. Call 634-4227 or visit ishagaramas.com. This ad courtesy the Shagaramas Development Authority, CDA, making Shagaramas the place to be.
And of course, courtesy of the CDA and also courtesy of Venture Capital. Sandrine?
Welcome back, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Good. Ambassador, recently both the United States and China agreed on the establishment of the U.S. and China strategic and economic dialogue. And a number of tangible outcomes are expected, which in the main will further deepen beneficial cooperation in a wide range of areas, including economy and trade, law enforcement, education, just to name a few. But could you expand for our listeners on this initiative in terms of the bigger picture?
Well, what we want to do is talk to the Chinese regularly and consistently. To first of all, to ensure there are no misunderstandings about where we're going. That's important. Secondly, is while the Chinese economy has declined this year, it still is in positive growth. So that's important. Yes. And a lot of the growth around the world will be the result of purchases by the Chinese of commodities and intermediate products that they then put in their finished products. So that's important, and we want to focus on that. The other thing, and it's almost intangible, is there's a natural reaction around the world in every country when there's an economic recession for politicians and citizens to become more protectionist. We want to avoid that, and we particularly want to avoid that with China, which is one of our largest trading partners. Yes. There's a certain protectionist sentiment which is growing in the United States. President Obama has been quite clear that we are going to live up to our international obligations. But one of the issues that you always hear in the United States, if you listen to talk radio in my country, is concern about China and concern that somehow China is taking advantage of us, concern that the Chinese currency is overvalued. And so that's one of the benefits of Treasury Secretary Geithner's trip to China and his meetings with his Chinese counterparts. And we want to keep that going and have fluid communications.
So the dialogue will be ongoing, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Excellent. Ambassador, another huge initiative announced by the Obama administration recently is changes in U.S. policy to reach out to the Cuban people in support of their desire to freely determine their country's future. And I'm fully aware, based on my readings and research, that this announcement is important not only to the Cubans, but also to other nations. Could you elaborate for us, please?
Well, I think the summit in Port of Spain was a turning point. Yes. And I think it was very important because President Obama in Port of Spain heard his Western Hemisphere counterparts talking about the importance of the United States reaching out to Cuba. That then culminated in the Organization of American States General Assembly in Honduras the first week of June. And what's happened there, a couple things, is number one is that all of us who belong to the Organization of American States, have agreed on a path for Cuba to return to the Organization of American States if, number one, they ask, but number two, that they have to live up to those standards that all the other countries of the OAS live up to with regard to the OAS Charter and Inter-American Democratic Charter, and above all, democracy. So what we're trying to do, and you'll see more of this, President Obama announced some of these measures before he arrived in Port of Spain, is trying to open more both to the Cuban people, but also to the government of Cuba. Yes. With regard to the Cuban people, we're making it easier for Cuban Americans to travel to Cuba, making it easier for Cuban Americans to send remittances to their family members in Cuba. You will see over time we will facilitate people-to-people exchanges, educational, religious, athletic exchanges between the people of the United States and the people of Cuba. And I think that's going to be important. But we mustn't forget that what we are also looking for are changes in Cuba itself. You saw the European Union, I believe, yesterday talking about the need for Cuba to release political prisoners.
Yes.
I mean, it's a place where people are in prison for their political beliefs. And so we believe that Cuba can take steps to ease up in Cuba, and also that we should be taking steps to reach out to the Cuban people.
Yes. Ambassador, this leads me directly to my next question, which has to do with the announcement made by President Obama at the recently concluded 5th Summit of the Americas with regards to the $30 million U.S. commitment towards assisting the region with economic development and security. But what plans are in place to implement this particular activity?
Well, we had a meeting in Suriname on the 20th of May. It's the official name of it is the U.S. Caribbean Technical Meeting on Security Cooperation.
Yes.
And that's a long title. But what we did in Suriname was to talk about a multinational approach to address transnational crime. That is the crime that all the societies in the Caribbean are facing. And I just was seeing some data that on the crime wave in Trinidad and Tobago and on murder rate in Trinidad and Tobago, which obviously has normally, understandably, has people very, very concerned.
Yes.
And so what we've done is we were seeking $45 million to contribute towards a multi-year Caribbean Basin Security Initiative. I mean, we've sought money and gotten money from our Congress for Mexico and Central America, but obviously we overlooked the Caribbean, and that's what this is. It's our attempt to help the CARICOM member nations deal with their own domestic security problems.
Oh, I see. Excellent, excellent. Ambassador, and let me turn the tables now a bit to the issue of entrepreneurial development, which plays a pivotal role in the socio-economic survival of many economies, and I'm aware that the United States expends a lot of resources in this area, particularly at this time. For example, I know that on March 19th of this year, legislation was received by the White House to treat with the issue of temporary extensions to specific SB authorities. What are some of the other key initiatives being implemented in this area?
I'm sorry, you're talking about with people, illegals in the United States, is that the...
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, I missed the very first part of what you said. I apologize. Look, that's, as you can imagine, it's a controversial issue in the United States, just like it is in every country that has illegal immigrants. I mean, we're not alone in this. All across the hemisphere, people are concerned about illegal immigrants in their country, and unfortunately, the economic crisis has heightened those concerns because there's more competition for jobs. There are all kinds of people who have all kinds of suggestions for immigration reform in the United States. Obviously, those countries that have large numbers of illegals in the United States would like to have a extended temporary protective status. And that's an issue that we're going to have to work out with our Congress, and it's going to take a while to work through.
Okay, I guess it's work in progress.
Yeah, but precisely because it is so controversial and because there is no consensus.
Okay. Ambassador, as we approach the end of our interview, what are some of your closing thoughts?
Well, first of all, there's one thing that I want to do, and that is I want to thank the people of Trinidad and Tobago again for hosting the Summit of the Americas and for the fabulous job that you did as hosts. In particular, I want to thank the Prime Minister and the summit coordinator, Luis Alberto Rodriguez, for the terrific job they did in ensuring that the summit declaration was closed before the prime ministers and presidents arrived in Port of Spain. I can't tell you how important that is, because it allowed our presidents and prime ministers to talk about important strategic issues as opposed to arguing about the wording in the summit declaration. The summit was a great success, and that success is a tribute to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Secondly, on the economy, which is of great concern for all of us. I mean, we are trying to find a way out of it as quickly and as easily as we can. Again, it's not easy. If it were, we would have done it. But we have to get our economies going. We have to get the major economies going because the small and medium-sized nations' economies depend on that.
Yes.
And I think it's important, and we were talking about China earlier. I mean, as I understand, Trinidad is about to export its first shipment of liquefied natural gas to Chile.
Yes.
First ever. That, in part, is because the Chilean economy is growing by selling commodities to China. I mean, we're all linked together in this, and we have to find a way out of this together.
Yes. And the economic growth, Ambassador, is incremental, eh?
Oh, you bet.
It's incremental.
You bet it is. I mean, some countries are doing better than others. I mean, Peru, I think, is going to set I believe, the record this year in Latin America and the Caribbean, and is continuing to do well. Panama is continuing to do well. China is doing well. All of us, are doing better than the Europeans are, who are in much worse shape than we are. So we've got to find a way to move ahead and get the world economy moving. And we've got to find a way to avoid protectionism and short-term solutions that are going to hurt our economies over the long run.
Yes. And I'm sure, Ambassador, the roadmap to recovery document will set the tone to get the economy up and running.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. But we're all democracies. I mean, and that makes it difficult, right?
Yes.
We've got to deal with our body politics in our country where the president although he's got a majority in Congress, he can't just tell them what to do.
Yes.
Our Congress is quite independent, and the other nations have similar issues, and so we're all going to have to work our way through this.
Yes.
And it's not going to be as quick as any of us want it to be.
Yes.
And I was listening to some guys on the radio a couple of days ago, and they're saying that none of us will know when the recovery has started.
Yes.
Right? That you'll only know it in retrospect, but not looking ahead.
Yes. Ambassador, it was indeed a pleasure, tremendous pleasure having you on the program, on the Business Forum, hearing your voice on our Trinidad and Tobago shores, and we hope to stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Adriana, and my best wishes to all the Power 102 listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
There you have it, Trinidad and Tobago Ambassador Charles Shapiro hosting with us on the Business Forum. I hope you enjoyed what was disseminated, and until next week.
Okay, thank you very much, Sandrine. And of course, we want to thank the people out there at the CDA and also Venture Capital.
Looking for the perfect place for recreation and investment opportunities? Then come to Shagaramas. We offer a diverse range of activities, including restaurant and hotel development, sailing, hiking, eco-tours, golfing, kayaking, and lots more. Call 634-4227 or visit ishagaramas.com. This ad courtesy the Shagaramas Development Authority, CDA, making Shagaramas the place to be.